Stacey, I'm hearing an echo. I don't know if that's me or you.
All right, let me put some headphones in, see if that might help. Is that a little bit better?
I think it was actually my fault. I had it playing on my phone, I think at the same time. Yeah, no worries.
Well, let me try to unplug my headphones again. It's a little easier for me, but if I need to have them in, I will.
Yeah, I think you're fine without them.
Okay.
We're going to share in a couple more places, and then we'll start talking. All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to go ahead and get this conversation started. My name is Adam, and we have the honor tonight of having Stacy Saltzburg, our city clerk, back with us again. Good evening, Stacy. Thanks for joining us. How you doing?
Great. How are you?
I'm good. Long day.
It has been a long day, but thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. It's great to have you on, and thanks for your willingness to do this again and put yourself through this. But I think it's so valuable to the community to hear some of your insights, and you just have so much wisdom and knowledge from all your years at the city that it's great to share that. So thank you for that. Tonight we're going to be talking about what it takes to run for office here in town, and this is going to be a really fun discussion. And because it's such an interesting topic, there's a lot of folks in the community who play around with the idea of running for office, getting involved in this type of way, but not many people know what it really takes to take that first step and get the process rolling. And often that first step is the hardest step, at least for me. And then once you get going and once you speak to someone like Stacy at the city, everything else, the pieces start falling into place. That's not to say there isn't a ton of work in between, but I believe that this topic is a very large barrier for many in the community. I think running for office is a barrier for many in the community, but just knowing the process alone, I think has a lot of value. So thank you again for tuning in, and Stacy for having this conversation with all of us. So Stacy, why don't I just pass you the mic and let you chat about what are the first steps and what someone needs to know if they're considering running for office.
Sure, thank you. And you brought up a really good point that sometimes this first step can really be a barrier for people. And it is really my sincere desire to try to make this process as easy and understandable as possible. My office, so myself along with my deputy city clerk Stacy Saltzburg, really want to avail ourselves to the community to answer questions. We know it can be a little intimidating, so we are here to help every step of the way. So to kind of kick things off, what I'd like to really emphasize is really the first step is to give me a call, send me an email, and tell me that you're interested, that you'd like some more information. One of the things that we like to do is to try to sit down with everybody face to face and really talk about the process. We have what we call a candidate packet that we put together that includes all of the forms that you would need during your candidacy. We go over things like signature requirements. So a lot of the stuff that we're going to be talking about today are things that I would be reviewing with anybody that would come in and be interested. We do have a lot of our forms and information on the website, but again, I think it's very helpful for people to come in and sit down and have an opportunity to have a discussion and to ask questions. So I have to put my little plug in there to, come see me, come talk to me, ask me all of the hard questions, because I'm here to help you out.
And Stacy is very intimidating, as you can tell, but it's worth it, and it's very insightful, and it'll really kind of help paint a picture. But I'm so glad we're doing this virtually, so people can just kind of skip to the end almost and get the information that they need, at least in this way. And if you're tuning in, folks, please do help us spread the word with this video by sharing this amongst your groups and amongst your peers and your friends on your pages. This is great information, but Stacy, please go keep going.
Sure. So the very first step in the process is to file what we call a statement of interest. This is kind of a new requirement over the last, I think, 2 election cycles. And really what this form does is it tells the public that you are interested in running for office and that you are going to be circulating petitions within the community. This form is very important. You have to file this form with me before you can start gathering signatures. And the reason I say that this is super important is because if you were to gather any sort of signatures before this form is filed, those signatures are invalid and they're not going to count towards your needed signature number.
And as someone who has firsthand experience with collecting signatures and being close to that cutoff line when they're all checked and done, I highly recommend you put your energy into doing it right the first time. Yes. Keep going.
Definitely. So the first question that I usually get from most people is, how many signatures do I need to have to qualify for the ballot? And the minimum number of signatures that you need this year is 1,602. So that's the minimum requirement. And you can submit up to 3,203 signatures. And so there's a range there, and most people will gather kind of somewhere in between or up to that maximum amount, just to provide them some cushion to make sure that they hit that 1,602 minimum requirement. So now that you've established that you want to run, you've filed your statement of interest, you know how many signatures you need. That's kind of where the hard work comes from, right? The first big hurdle is gathering those signatures. So we provide you with a signature sheet. We also have that on our website, so you can fill it in electronically, print those out, and start, getting out there and having people sign your petition. This year, we have a really cool and new exciting feature to offer our candidates. Is we offer, the Secretary of State's office has an online signature gathering portal. It's called eQual. And this is the first year that local government candidates have been able to use this portal. And what this does is it allows you to obtain petition signatures online. And so it offers like a nice convenience, right? Because a lot of people are online. They're comfortable using an online system.
Oh, this is a game changer, in my opinion. It really is. Elected, this is huge. And this is the first time they're doing this, right?
Yes, for local offices. They've done it at the state level for a number of years.
Now, I will say, in collecting signatures, it is a lot easier. You can be more effective when you're doing it face-to-face, of course. Mm-hmm. But if someone is motivated to sign your petition and is willing to follow a link to do so online, that's a huge help. So that's great.
Definitely. And I would encourage people who are looking to sign a candidate's petition. We have a link on our elections website that will take you to those candidates statewide that you are eligible to sign petitions for. So not only will you see local candidates, but it's also a way for you to see what state and county candidates may be out there that you can also sign petitions for. What is really desirable for candidates in this particular portal is that it is run through the state's voter registration database. And why this is important is because it will allow only qualified electors to sign your petitions. And so it gives a level of comfort, if you will, to know that those signatures are valid. They're people that live within the city limits. They're registered to vote, all of those things that are required in order for them to sign a petition. It's really exciting. We do have a few people that have already started utilizing the system. They have said that the setup is really easy and that it seems to be working well. So we're really excited to offer that this year. Yeah. So now you've kind of gone through the process, right? You've talked to people, you've gotten all of your signatures, you've got, your stuff, you're ready to come to my office and say, okay, I want to be put on the ballot. Here's all my signatures. And so once you get to that point, there's a few other things that you have to file with my office. You would obviously bring your signatures in with you. Also, we require what's called a nomination form. And this tells me and the county how you want your name to show up on the ballot. So yeah, that's kind of important.
Stacey, really quick, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. You might have mentioned this, but I just want to make sure to drive this home. Your signatures must be City of Flagstaff residents who sign your petition. You might have mentioned that, but I just want to double emphasize that. Often, if you're collecting signatures downtown at the farmer's market or wherever it might be, you might have folks within the county or from a different city that are open and willing to sign your petition, but they're not ultimately going to count towards your total that you need in terms of being a legitimate signature,
Sure.
right?
That is correct. You have to be, in order to sign the petition, you have to be a qualified elector of the City of Flagstaff, meaning that you are a City of Flagstaff resident. This does get a little bit challenging because we have neighboring communities that are actually, in the county. And so, it's pretty important to make sure that you're asking folks, do you live in the proper boundaries of the City of Flagstaff?
And then the one other comment I'll make is just that they're not voting for you. You can remind them they're not voting for you. They're signing to put your name on the ballot. And they can sign up to 3 petitions unless that's changed for council members, and one petition for mayor, right? Correct. It's basically for the amount of seats that are open. So you can sign again for 3 council members, their petitions. After that, your signature isn't valid. But again, you're not voting. Stacey, Dan's joining us, and he says, what is the link website portal you mentioned again regarding the signatures, please? Dan, I actually put that in the comments, and I'm going to add it to the description of the video at the end, but hopefully you can see in the comments section, it says sign a candidate petition online, and then there's a link. That's the link, and yeah, what a game changer, right?
Yeah, it's exciting. I can tell you from a clerk's perspective, we've been asking for this for a number of years, and I know our candidates are very excited. So yeah, it is a game changer on many levels for sure.
All right, keep going.
All right. So you'll file a nomination form with me. Tell me how you want your name to show up on the ballot. There's some other requirements, a financial disclosure statement, which kind of talks about your financial interests. But those are all things that kind of come to my office when you're ready to file. But if I can back up just a little bit, once you've started circulating petitions, oftentimes it brings up questions. You've got friends in the community that want to perhaps donate money to you to help you out with your campaign, whether it's buying signs or buttons or whatever. People want to give you money and contribute. And so here locally, if you bring in and spend up to $500, you are then have met a threshold for you to create a campaign committee. And this is a candidate committee, actually. And so what this does is it requires you then to start reporting to the public who is giving you money and what you are spending that money on. And so that $500 threshold is somewhat small. So you'll find that most candidates go down that road fairly quickly of establishing a candidate committee. But it's an important piece once you kind of realize that you're ready to start accepting donations and, working to spend some money to help with your campaign. And that will carry forward, through your petition gathering process. And then if you are, become a qualified candidate, your name's on the ballot, obviously that activity will continue through your entire campaign.
And we're not going to be diving into, fundraising and those types of topics in this conversation, but I do plan to host future conversations on fundraising and all that, because this is a huge part of running for office. It doesn't have to be, but often it does play a large role. And Stacey, cut me off if I'm going down a path that's bad. But I just wanted to say that, if I'm able to, just that, if you are seriously considering running for office and you do start collecting signatures, you file your intent. I personally would recommend that, you look into, setting up that committee sooner than later, because folks are going to likely want to, support you financially, and you want to be set up for your own success, because that information tracking is extremely tedious.
Mhm.
It is complicated. You'll probably need help. And it's just, I think, a good thing to have a system in place before you really get into your campaign. So that's good information.
Well, and to tack onto that, just quickly, you'll often want to go set up a bank account. And what we're finding over the last couple of years is that the bank wants you to actually create a candidate committee with me before they'll open up that account. So, save yourself a little bit of time and hassle kind of going back and forth. Go ahead and file that. Even if you're not quite sure, there's nothing wrong with creating a committee, and then you can terminate it later if you find that you don't want to go down that road.
Totally.
Absolutely. Really quick, another important, when we're talking about important dates, signatures are due to me in my office no later than 5 o'clock on April the 4th. So, you've got a good few months here to circulate your petition, gather up all your signatures, but they will need to be received no later than 5 o'clock. I highly, highly recommend you schedule an appointment with me to make sure that I am here and available, and can make sure that we can get those processed accordingly. Let's see. Another question that I get asked pretty frequently is, do we have a primary? And the city of Flagstaff is a little bit different than other communities throughout the state. Because we do not direct elect at a primary. And so what triggers a primary for the city of Flagstaff is if we have more than 2 candidates for each open seat. So for example, we can look at the 2020 election. We had more than 2 candidates for our mayoral seat, and that triggered the need to hold a primary to narrow that list of candidates to 2. And so we don't always have an election in August because we don't have, the requisite number of candidates that have come forward. And even if there is a primary, there is no candidates are elected at a primary election here in Flagstaff. It will always go to the November election for those final results.
But at that election, you might get voted off the island, right?
That is true.
It's almost like a pre-election trial for the candidates to see where they're standing in the community's eyes through the election process. And so for local council, we always know that there's 3 seats up because the terms are staggered every 2 years. Although council terms are 4 years, every 2 years, 3 of the 6 seats are up for re-election. So if there's 6 candidates, there's 2 candidates for each seat. There's no primary election for the council members. But if there's that 7 number, more than 2 per seat, that triggers that primary. And same for mayor. There's 1 seat up every 2 years. So there's 2 people that can run. If there's a 3rd candidate, then the primary is held, right?
Yes. So having that April deadline to submit your petitions allows us enough time to process those and determine if we need to hold a primary election in August. So, that's kind of the big key date for running for office. Obviously, once we get past that April timeframe, it triggers a number of other things. But that's the big one right now. And the one that folks just generally tend to focus on at this stage of the process. I'm just looking through my notes here to see if there's anything that I might have missed.
Stacey, if you need to do a screen share at all, if you want to show anyone through the website, please do. But no need if you'd rather not.
No, that's good. Are you good if I share the elections page? Because I think it's got a lot of really good information here. So let's see what I And
folks, if you have questions, we're going to start wrapping this conversation up in a little bit here. Please put them in the chat, and we will address them. But we really appreciate you taking the time to tune in and engage in this conversation. Okay, Stacey, I see your share.
Oh, excellent.
Okay, zoom in if you can on the screen itself. It's really small for some reason.
Let me switch it over to a different screen.
Right.
Hang on. Let me stop really quick. Sorry about that, guys.
That's all good.
Let's see here. Let's try this. Okay, is that a little bit better?
Yes, I
All
think
right.
so. And maybe if you can't even zoom in a little bit further on the page.
Let's see here if I can do that.
There you go. That's good. Okay, so this is the elections page, and the link to it is in the description to this live stream if you want to visit it yourself, or it's the first comment I made on the stream of this discussion. But Stacey, go ahead.
Sure. So this is the main elections page. This is where I try to keep as current of information as possible. So I recommend you come take a look at this. As you'll see, as I scroll down just a little bit, I do keep a kind of a running list of everybody who has currently, submitted statements of interest. This is helpful for the public who might be, getting ready to sign petitions. They know who's kind of out there and moving things along.
I haven't even seen this list. Breaking news for me. So exciting.
It's very good cool stuff. Yeah, wow. And so we've also got some links here to access that online candidate portal that we were hearing about. Trying to make things as easy as possible for people. Click here to register to vote. Also on this page of particular interest, I think for candidates or people that might be interested in running for office, we do put out a candidate information guide. And this can be very helpful because it does go through a number of questions that you might have, things that might come up, and things that you probably don't think about that might be helpful information. But this 2022 candidate election guide will pretty much answer just about any questions that you might have. It is fully linked so that you can see the various statutes that might be related to some of the election requirements at the local level. But again, we just try to make sure that we've got as much information on here as possible. But as always, my office is always available to answer questions, help guide you in your process. We are truly here to help and want to make this process as easy as we can for you.
That's great. Yeah, check out that website. It's good. Okay, a question did pop up. And it's a good one. How do council members make a living with 24,000? I think it's actually 24,500. Is that correct, Stacey? Do you know?
Oh, off the top of my head, I'm sorry, I don't. I'd have to go back and look at that. My apologies.
99% sure it's 24,500 for council members, and I want to say 32,000 for mayor, but we can confirm those numbers later. And I think, do you know if the job is classified? I think it's classified as part-time. Is that correct?
I don't know that it actually has a specific designation to it. I do get that question a lot. What's the time commitment for the mayor? What's the time commitment for a council member? And from my perspective, it's a very difficult question to answer because it's really very specific to the individual.
That's so true. And, it really, I can speak firsthand as a council member that, I think each council member invests their time differently into this work. And the job gives you flexibility to how you want to handle it. You're almost like a contractor position in this weird sense because there's like no limit to the amount of work you can take on if you wanted to. But at the same time, you have to make that decision because, as you mentioned, 24,500 is not a living in Flagstaff. It's really, and the funny thing is when you compare us to other cities and other city councils, we actually get paid well. From my experience, like most councils, it's volunteer or it's like 8,000. It's something ridiculous. And we opened this conversation. Not to get too down this rabbit hole with you, Stacey, but we opened this conversation with barriers of getting involved in local politics and how we're addressing some of those here. This is a huge barrier, right? To run for office. Get my soapbox for a minute here. To run for office, to get elected, do the work that the community so needs you to do for that money, to me means that, this work is for someone who's retired or who has a good, job elsewhere. And it's not for the working class people that so badly need to have their voice represented. And so this is a bigger conversation that we'll not dive into further here, but all I can say is I'm working on it. I agree with you. It's very difficult and it's not sustainable. Does anybody have any questions while we're going to start wrapping up this conversation? Please do chime in the comments section. But Stacy, did you have anything else you wanted to speak to?
I think I hit all of the points. Again, if I can just drive home, call me, email me. We want to help. Come see me. The packet is very helpful, and to be able to sit down face to face with potential candidates can be a great experience and an opportunity to ask questions that you might not be able to think of right now. But we're here to help. And, local government, this is why I do what I do. There is so much that can happen locally, and our elections are critical to that. And I take great pride in, overseeing our elections. And I encourage as many people that want to get involved to get involved. It's fantastic. And I'm just here to help in any way that I can.
That's great. Stacy, how many elections have you seen through?
Let's see. I started in the city clerk's office in 2012. So I had that election, 14. Okay. We had a special 15, 16, 18. This will probably be my 7th election cycle, I believe. And probably somewhere in the 12 range for my tenure at the city. So, yeah.
That's great. And I'm going to put in the chat your contact information that you want them to use. What phone number would you ask them to call?
928-213-2076.
And then your email?
stacy.saltzburg@flagstaffaz.gov. And you can find all of that information on the website as well.
Totally. All right, folks. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If no one has any other questions, it's been a good conversation. We want to keep this video as short as possible, just so that folks do get to watch it and not have to commit too much time to this very valuable information. But again, help us spread the word. Share this with your networks. Let's get the word out there. Let's educate and empower our community to better understand what it takes to run for office and be a local elected, which is such an important role in our community. I can't say that enough. This work has been incredibly humbling for me and inspiring, and I'm just so blown away by the value, as Stacy spoke to, of being involved in local government and being involved at whatever capacity that might be. It's really a great experience, and it'll challenge you, and it'll keep you up at night, and it'll push you to work way past, your clocked in hours, but it's worth it. And it really adds a lot of value to life. So let Stacy know if you have any questions. Let me know if you have any questions. Hopefully this was valuable. We'll do more of these conversations. I'm thinking the next discussion I'll have will be with a bunch of potentially current and former elected officials. And we'll dive into some of the more political stuff that you might enjoy. But Stacy, thank you so much for your time this evening, for your insight, for your service to our community. We appreciate it, and have a great evening.
Thank you so much, Councilmember. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Take care, everybody.